and welcome to Behind the Mic Radio. I am your host, Dawn Mack, and so glad to be here with you on this Saturday night. I hope that your day has been a great day thus far, and mine certainly has. Boy, there's a lot of different things today, and so now we're settled in here with you tonight, bringing you another great show. And while we're waiting for our guest to call in, just wanted to let you know that tonight our special guest is going to be D.W. Moffett. You may know him from the shows Twitched at Birth, or Happily Divorced, or Friday Night Lights, and the list just goes on and on. And so we're very, very excited to be bringing him to you tonight. If you'd like to call in and speak to him, the number is 347-945-6965. All right. While we're waiting for him to call in, I'm going to go ahead and just play a song for you, just to kind of set the mood for this evening. As you know, when we wrap here, I'll be switching over to our Jammin' Jukebox radio show, and tonight we'll be bringing you Indie Artist Showcase at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you're looking to unwind and just have some great indie music to listen to this evening, catch it at 8 p.m. Eastern this evening. All right, I think we have him on the line. Let's see here. Hello, Behind the Mic.
Hey, it's DW.
Hi, DW. How are you?
Good. Is this Dawn?
Yes, it is. It is indeed.
How are you?
And I'm very well, thank you. How are you this evening?
Good. Where am I calling, 347?
You are actually calling, 347 is based out of New York, but I am in North Carolina, so I'm calling in remotely as well from North Carolina.
I got you.
So it's just amazing what technology can do today. It is an honor and a privilege to have you with us this evening. Thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. I know you've been shooting like crazy of late. You know, your schedule's been mad, just insanely crazy. So thank you for giving us a little bit of your time this evening to chat with you. So we appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Gosh, as I was kind of reading over your vast resume of accomplishments and things that you've done, it's like, where do you begin with you? You've had such a stellar career, and I personally want to congratulate you on your outstanding career success because what you have managed to, it's no small feat. I mean, you have really, really accomplished some great things and done some great things.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to apply my trade in something that I really, really love. It's, I think, the key to happiness, pretty much. If you can make a living doing what you like to do, it's whether it be farming or fixing cars or mine happens to be acting, but I'm a lucky man.
Yes, you are. And it was interesting. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I had read somewhere that before you ever embarked on an acting career, you actually worked in the finance and banking industry. Is that correct, or did I misread that?
That is correct. No, that is correct.
Well, how in the world did you go from that, because obviously you were established in that career, to where you are today?
Well, I don't know if I was established in that career. That was sort of my first job out of college, and I had my background in college was back then it was a very sort of bizarre major. It's now a very popular major called international relations, and I thought that I would be going into the Foreign Service in some capacity, State Department. And my advisor at the time said to me, you'd be much smarter if you went and worked in private business and worked your way up to a fairly decent level. I was 22 at the time, so he said, when you're 30 years old, if you've worked your way up and you go into government, at that point you'll be going into government at a much higher level than you could get if you went into government at age 22. So I said, okay, that sounds good, and I interviewed a number of places, and I wound up at a place called Continental Bank in Chicago. And the banking industry sometimes a little sort of a slow-moving, not a very innovative industry. And so rather than taking my background in language and international economics and politics, they stuck me in the agribusiness division. So I was lending money to cattle feeders and feedlots in eastern Colorado and Nebraska.
Wow. I bet they everyone that knew you at that point in time, they know, if they know what you do now, I bet I bet you are glad that you kind of evolved from that into acting, would you say?
Yeah, I'm very glad. Although I look back on that time with a lot of fondness. I worked with some really interesting guys. They were very passionate about the agribusiness industries that we were lending money to, and they were very smart guys. And I don't know if the winds of fate had blown a different way, I might have wound up a rancher in northern Arizona. I don't know. But as it turned out, I had a friend from high school. I went to high school in suburban Chicago, and I had a friend from high school who said, you're kind of a funny guy, and you can do impressions of people and stuff, and you should take this acting class. I think you'd really enjoy it. And I said, why in God's name would I want to take an acting class? And he said, well, for one, there's 3 really good-looking girls in this class. And I said, done deal. I figured it couldn't really hurt. I could sign up for the class, and if the girls weren't that good-looking, I could just drop out. And as it turned out, I don't even remember what girls he was talking about, because I think almost from the beginning I sensed that this was something that was speaking to me on a very different level than anything I'd ever done before. And, I basically quit the bank within a year, started a theater company within 2 years, and then basically ran the theater company and acted and directed and did everything from chief bottle washer to ticket taker to whatever, until I got another company in Chicago who has miraculously stayed together all these years, called Steppenwolf Theater. They took a show to New York, and I went as part of that cast to New York and got an agent, got a Broadway show, got my first TV show, sort of bing, bang, boom.
Wow.
And then, commuted. I was tri-coastal for a while. I was L.A., Chicago, New York for about 5 years, which kind of drove me crazy. And then sort of settled in L.A. when it became, the business also shifted where you really need to be in L.A. these days to sort of compete for big jobs. And if you're in New York, you're basically competing on videotape, or now it's digital tape or iPhone, whatever the heck you're using to tape yourself. But basically these days, if you're in New York, you're competing as a two-dimensional image against a person in a room. And I always think if I can get into a room with somebody and they can see me and talk to me and shake my hand and sort of feel out what kind of guy I am, that gives me a great advantage over just a videotape or a flat image, because so much is riding these days in production on expediency, and so very often, unfortunately, a lot of people don't take it as seriously as they should, or whatever, and wind up causing production delays because they're either behaving irresponsibly or they're not very pleasant individuals or whatever. But I think it's more and more important to producers to get a sense that someone's got their head screwed on right, and if they're going to, hand them the responsibility of being a big part in their show.
Yeah, Most definitely, and you know, thanks to social media and the paparazzi, we get a good taste of all that now, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know.
Well, you know what? I feel bad. I kind of feel bad for kids these days because when I was in my 20s, I was crazy, and you know, there would be stuff on the internet now that I would not want to have out there. And I feel bad for these kids. You know, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I just keep telling her, you better be careful. Because it's just a whole new world out there. It isn't like, you know, he said, she said. It's like, there's the video.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's just, you know, it could just be, you know, it can be embarrassing, and worst case scenario, it can be, you know, it can be very damaging.
Yeah.
And
the kind of damage that's irreparable. I mean, you know, it's only so much, you know, for these actors and actresses, you know, these young stars, there's only so much a publicist or a manager can do, especially when you've got it right out there on video within seconds of it happening. You know, you can't, you know, it's like a picture, it doesn't lie. So there's kind of a really difficult way to rebuild and repair a reputation if if what you've done irresponsibly is caught on tape, so to speak, you know, and it's really tough from those young stars and even, you know, older actors and actresses as well, you know, because everything that people in the public eye are doing now is documented. I mean, every move that could possibly be documented, and it's very, it's very eye-opening, but yet at the same time it makes you very aware that you have to really kind of put your best face forward at all times. You know, you never know who's going to be watching.
You know, on the other hand, you know, something like Twitter, you know, allows me to dialogue with my fans in a way that would not have been possible 5 years ago. So, you know, that's the positive side of social media. You know, you just have to kind of understand the nature of the beast and pay attention.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Now, before you ever, you know, entered into banking and came out of college, earlier in your life, did you ever think that you might one day want to pursue acting? You know, your friend obviously had taken note that you could do, you know, impressions and you were funny and comical. I mean, was that kind of part of who you were always?
I mean, I was a little bit of a class clown, but I was, you know, I was also a really good student. And so, you know, there was a part of me that thought that, you know, when I was younger, that thought that acting was kind of this frivolous thing. Like who in their right mind would pursue that as an adult? You know, it just did not seem like something that someone, you know, that there was so much more important things one could do with one's life. Not taking into consideration what would make me happy. And so, you know, when you've gotten out of college and you're doing a job and you realize that I'm unhappy, that changes your thinking really quickly. Like, I don't like what I'm doing, and I'm out of college now, and this is my life, and I'm unhappy. I've got to look at this. And I was lucky that I stumbled onto something that I really loved. And, you know, I have to say, in all honesty, many of us from that time in Chicago, you know, and that wave of actors that came out of Chicago at about the same time, which is like, you know, John Malkovich and Laurie Metcalf and Terry Kinney and William Peterson, Gary Cole, Gary Sinise, all those actors, none of us had even a remote fantasy that this would result in a penny. Not a penny. I mean, we hoped that maybe we could do a commercial here or there, or maybe do a play for money here or there, but it was really not about a career or Hollywood or even New York. It was really just about, we really loved doing theater, and we were young, and we thought, what the heck, this is the time to do it. None of us thinking that it was going to lead to anything other than another play. You know, none of us really thinking what our lives would be like after 30, you know. And so there was a magnificent innocence in that allowed us to be very daring and very very sort of inventive. And I think it imprinted a lot of us, in terms of the kind of actors that we are. We're all very versatile. You may not see all of us at our full versatility, but a lot of those guys, if you ever get a chance to see any of the above-mentioned actors on stage, that's really where we all came from, and that's really, I think, where we're all at our best.
And suffice it to say, you've all gone on to have just phenomenal careers.
Yeah, it's
beyond your wildest imaginations, even.
Yeah, right. I mean, I haven't even mentioned half of the people, really. I mean, I'm mentioning the ones that are, that I'm just off the top of my head. But usually in a like, let's say you're involved in theater, not in one of the epicenters. Like, let's say you're, I don't know, Nashville, and you're in a theater company. Maybe one or two people from that company maybe comes to Hollywood and makes a living. But the fact that, we all used to go to the same couple of bars, and the fact that in one of those bars on a Saturday night back in 1985, 20 of the 30 people would be award-winning actors. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you the turns that life can take, and you never know what life is going to hand you or how you're going to be led in a certain direction that you never expected to go in. So, but thankfully for you, you pursued, obviously something that made you very happy, because you've gone on to do so many tremendous things in the world of acting, television, and film, and you've held starring roles in theater, film, and television. Which aspect of acting do you enjoy the most?
Say that again, which what?
I said, which aspect of acting do you enjoy the most, the theater, the film, or television?
I think that up until a few years ago, I would have always said theater. But I've really come to appreciate, because part of acting is a love of storytelling. And part of the love of storytelling is telling a story that you think is going to affect people or reach people. And there's something incredibly gratifying about doing something on television or film that is going to reach millions and millions of people, whereas if you do theater, even the biggest Broadway hit isn't going to reach, a tenth of that many people. So that's one of the reasons that I've sort of gained a deeper appreciation for film and television. The other is that, film and television requires a level of relaxation and kind of subtlety that I've only really begun to appreciate in the last 10 years. I think a lot of my early film and television work was not very delicate or very subtle, because I was such a theater actor. I was kind of, I was only using first and second gear, really, and there were many more gears at my disposal that I wasn't using. And so that said, I think just for the visceral experience, there's nothing like being in a good play in front of an audience. Nothing like that. But I also really, really like being in a situation where I'm in a television show or a movie that is good. It's harder to tell with movies sometimes because the movie hasn't come out yet, so you don't know. But I'm in a TV show now where I've seen the product on stage. I've seen the product broadcast. I know that our fans respond, and I know that our scripts are getting better and better, and we as actors in the company, I think, are getting better and better. So it's really satisfying to be part of that. And that's a very unique thing. A lot of people don't ever get that. Great actors don't ever get on a show that's got this kind of quality. So again, very, very grateful for that.
Oh yeah. Now, what would you consider to be your most challenging role to date of all the different characters that you've played? And also, what is your favorite kind of character to play? I'd have to say probably the most challenging for me was kind of the biggest
like my biggest first starring role that got a lot of attention. It was a long time ago. It was off Broadway in New York, and it was a play called The Normal Heart, and it was a play about AIDS in a time. This was before Rock Hudson made his announcement that he was gay and he was dying, and AIDS was this sort of secret thing that no one knew about, and I read the script, and all these people said, "Are you out of your mind? You just got to New York. You're going to play a gay guy? You crazy? They're going to think you're gay. They're going to think, all these things, all this stuff." But I thought the story was so compelling, and I died in the play. I die, and it was a really brutal play. About this kind of dysfunctional relationship between this young man, myself, because I was young back then, don't forget, and an actor named Brad Davis, who actually subsequently died of AIDS. And Brad played this sort of screaming gay man who wanted the world to know about AIDS. And I wasn't gay. I didn't really know anybody who was gay. I'd just come off the boat out of Chicago, and I jumped in and did my research, and the play was a huge success, and was just on Broadway, and now Barbra Streisand is going to make a movie out of it, 30 years later.
Wow.
But I think that was the most challenging, because there was an opportunity for me there. I'm just very grateful that I grasped the opportunity, and I didn't get scared. I didn't listen to people who wanted me to be scared or who wanted me to be safe. I trusted my instinct, and it changed my life. Every casting director in America came and saw that show, including half the producers. So that sort of introduced me to the business at a much higher level than I'd ever been exposed to before.
Oh, wow. And thank goodness you followed your gut. I mean, wow.
Yeah. Now, I think the most fun characters for me are always bad guys. So, like, the most fun that I've had recently was probably playing Joe McCoy on Friday Night Lights. Just getting to play this psycho Little League dad, this overbearing, over-controlling, nasty individual. It's just so much fun. It's always fun to play bad guys. You ask any actor, and 99 out of 100 will tell you the same thing. I mean, listen, I love playing John Kennish because I love who John is in the ensemble of Switch to Birth. He's sort of the bull in the china shop. I love that about him, but ultimately, he's a really good guy. Joe McCoy ultimately is not a good guy, and that just makes him more fun to play.
Well,
made him more fun to play.
Yeah, and speaking of your character, John Kennish, as many know, Switch to Birth, I think it's back for the summer season, June 10th? It's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And
yes, June 10th, exactly.
Many fans are anxiously awaiting, and we're already seeing the previews of the new series, the new season premiere. So, gosh, it can't get here soon enough. It's a great show, great concept, and of course, you play John Kennish, and talk a little bit about your character. I mean, you just touched on him briefly, but what ways is John Kennish like you, D.W. Moffett? I mean, are there any similarities or differences?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I tend to want to control things in my house, maybe a little bit too much. I tend to want to fix everything. I don't want things to just sort of work themselves out. I want to fix them the way John wants to fix things. And in the way that John didn't really want to deal with the fact that Daphne was deaf initially, I sometimes don't want to deal with bad news in my home. I'd rather just think, oh, that'll go away, or that isn't really that bad. My family's perfect. Nothing bad could ever come out of my family. I think that what I've had to what I've tried to do with John is, I'm raised in Chicago, and I went to school in California, and then I went to New York, and then I'm in California. John is from the Midwest, and he grew up in the Midwest, and he's in the Midwest, and a lot of these TV dads on some of these shows, they're awfully sensitive, and they're awfully compassionate, and they're awfully always have the comforting word. And sometimes I'll say to the writers, remember, guys, John never had therapy. John Kennish has not had therapy. He would not say something like this. John is a little more crude and a little more, he doesn't have the words for this kind of stuff. So I like John being, he loves his kids, he loves his wife, but sometimes, he doesn't have the ability, like, he's not a silver-tongued devil, let's say. He's, he's just a guy. He's a guy's guy. And I like that about him. Yeah.
And we love seeing you play in that role.
Say again?
I said, and we love seeing you play in the role of John Kennish because you play it so well, and the show is a great show anyway. And like I said, it's what a great concept for a show, and it really not only is it been the hit that it has, but the concept of you've got one daughter who is deaf, and you have one who's not, and just bringing to the forefront that awareness of how families deal with that sort of thing. Not to mention the whole switched at birth thing. Right. We've even heard about that in our in our national real life media. So it is interesting how all these dynamics have come together to work so well in the show. And what do you think is the secret to the show's success?
Well, anybody who's in television or has been in television for a bit will tell you that the first thing you need to have a hit television show is luck. You just have to be lucky. The stars have to line up, and they did in our case, and I'll get to that. But right behind luck is you have to have a really good idea upon which you can hang 100 episodes. And there are not many of those out there. There are a lot of cool ideas where you can do like 10, 12, 15, 20 episodes. But then they kind of run out. And it kind of you don't really care about seeing any more of that particular notion. But our creator, Lizzie Weiss, has given us a framework upon which, we're just beginning to hang stories. I got to tell you, and I'm not, and this is coming from someone who, this is not usually the case. Our next 10 episodes are by far the best episodes that we've shot.
Wow.
Sometimes when you first start a TV show and the passion is there and the newness is there, you really hit it out of the park coming out of the gate. But then very often things start to kind of hit this sort of like, dun-dun, 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 this kind of plateau.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think we've been on this rocket ship. Everything has gotten better every single episode. But this 10 that that we're shooting right now, it's at a whole nother level of I think our audience is going to really, really enjoy it. It's going to be hard for her to match this going forward. She's really set the bar high for herself, and it's. I'm really intrigued to see what the response will be. Summer was when we launched the show 2 years ago, and we've not been on summer since with original episodes. And I'm really hoping that we find a whole nother level of audience, too. I hope a lot of people discover our show this summer who may not be able to see it during the year because of school or other shows they watch or whatever. I'm hoping that not only that our wonderfully loyal audience returns, and I'm fairly confident that they will, but I'm hoping that also a whole new audience finds us because they will be rewarded.
Well, we will definitely be watching and cannot wait for the new season to begin on June the 10th. And that's on ABC Family. For anyone who has never watched Switched at Birth, let me tell you, you need to. It's a great show. We want to thank you, D.W. Moffett, for being our special guest today and just taking some time to talk with us. It's been great, and we really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. I look forward to the next time.
Yes, definitely. We will definitely count on that. Well, take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend, and best of luck to you for much continued success.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too now. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh, we've been speaking with D.W. Moffett, as you just heard, if you're just tuning in a little bit late. Just had a great interview chatting with him about his show, Switched at Birth, which is on ABC Family, getting ready to enter into its third season. The new season premiere will be June the 10th, and it's a great show. And if you were listening just now, if you didn't catch it, he said the next 10 episodes coming up through the summer season are some of the best that they've had on the show as of yet. The bar's been set really high, so be sure and tune in for that. And he's just such a great actor. He's done so many things and has so much to his credit. And I could have talked to him much longer, but we didn't have a lot of time. But so appreciative for his time today. So we want to thank him for being our very special guest, and we want to thank all of you for tuning in and joining us today as well. And if you're brand new to our program, welcome aboard. We're so glad that you stopped by, and we hope that you will again. And with that, I am going to wrap our show up, and we're going to take a few days off, but we'll be back here probably late next week, and we've got a lot coming up. So we do look forward to that. And so, again, thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate it. Take care, all. Good night, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to tonight's show. You can connect to Behind the Mic Radio on Twitter at BT Mic Radio and on Facebook at Behind the Mic Radio. Check out our website at BehindTheMicRadio.com. Also, follow us right here on Blog Talk Radio, where you can stay up to date on all upcoming shows. Every episode is available for immediate download upon the conclusion of each broadcast, and as always on iTunes. Thank you for joining us. Tonight's show has been brought to you by One Taste of Main Street Cake Shop's baked from scratch custom-made cakes and cupcakes, and you'll be hooked. Every cake is made to order with only the finest and freshest ingredients. This is no ordinary bakery. Cakes are never pre-made. Main Street Cake Shop is in demand, having provided cakes and cupcakes for numerous prestigious events, bridal fairs, and venues. Owned and operated by April Murray, she has garnered many awards for not only her exquisite cake designs, but also for their incredible taste. If you're looking for a cake for any occasion, or cupcakes in a variety of flavors, then Main Street Cake Shop is the place. Visit them on the web at mainstreetcakeshop.com.